The hum of the washing machine filled the narrow laundry room, steady and low, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to either of them. She stood close enough that he could smell the faint trace of jasmine from her hair, mixed with detergent and something warmer lived in. Her hand rested on the edge of the counter, nails clean, a small band of gold catching the light. "I didn't think you'd actually come this fast," she said, voice calm but dipped in something slower. He smiled, setting his tool bag down. "You said it was urgent." Her eyes flicked to his, then back to the washing machine. "I might have exaggerated." That made him laugh softly, not because it was funny, but because the space between them felt too still, too aware. He crouched beside the machine, unscrewing the back panel, pretending to focus. She didn't move. He could feel her there, watching the soft shift of her breathing, the subtle weight of her presence. He told himself it was just another job. But it wasn't. She was in her mid-40s, confident in that quiet, self-contained way people only became after being disappointed a few times. Her blouse was loose but deliberate, sleeves rolled just enough to show the shape of her wrist. He noticed everything, the careful way she folded her arms, the way her eyes didn't blink when she spoke. "You live alone?" he asked, immediately regretting how casual it sounded. "For a while now," she replied, not looking at him. "I've gotten good at pretending the silence doesn't bother me." He paused. The hum of the machine deepened. Silence can be loud. That made her glance at him, not surprised, but curious. "You sound older than you look." He grinned, keeping his eyes on the open panel. "People say that." She moved closer, resting a hand on the counter above him. "That's not always a compliment." The air shifted again. He could hear the soft slide of her bracelets when she crossed her arms. His fingers brushed against her knee accidentally as he adjusted the valve. He froze, but she didn't step back. Instead, she asked, too quietly, "Does it really take this long to fix?" He looked up at her. Her expression was unreadable, half amused, half daring. "Sometimes," he said, voice lower than he meant. For a few seconds, nothing moved. The machine whirred faintly, water settling inside. A strand of her hair had slipped loose, and she tucked it behind her ear, slowly, almost as if aware of how much he was watching. She sighed, a soft exhale that trembled at the end. "You're thorough," she said, turning away as if to distract herself. He stood up then, wiping his hands. "I like getting things right." "Do you?" she asked, facing him again. "Even when they're complicated?" He hesitated. "Especially then." Her mouth curved slightly, but there was something vulnerable underneath it, a crack in her composure he hadn't noticed before. He reached for the power cord, testing the switch. The machine shuddered, then began to spin again, the steady rhythm returning to the room. "Looks like it's fixed," he said. She didn't look at the machine. Her gaze lingered on him, steady, unreadable. "Stay until I'm satisfied," she said quietly, the words careful, deliberate, almost testing how they'd sound aloud. He opened his mouth to answer, but before he could, a sharp knock echoed from the hallway, sudden, breaking the fragile rhythm of their silence. Her eyes darted toward the sound. His pulse kicked up. Neither moved. The machine kept humming, as if nothing had happened. And in that still moment, with the knock repeating once more, he couldn't tell what unsettled him more, whoever was at the door, or the way she didn't seem surprised. The knocking stopped after a few seconds, fading down the hallway. She exhaled slowly, as though she'd been holding her breath for too long. "It's just the neighbor," she murmured, straightening a stack of towels that didn't need straightening. "He tends to worry when he hears anything mechanical. Thinks everything's about to explode." He half smiled. "Do you usually have this much excitement on a Thursday afternoon?" "Hardly." She gave him a quick glance, almost embarrassed by her own joke. "Most days, it's quiet. Too quiet, sometimes." The silence that followed carried something heavier. He noticed her fingers tremble just slightly as she reached for a glass of water. She was hiding it well, but not completely. He leaned against the counter, watching her from the edge of the frame, the way she moved, precise but tired. "You used to live with someone?" She stopped mid-motion. "Used to," she said. My husband left about 5 years ago. We had different ideas of what forever meant. He nodded, unsure if he should look away. I'm sorry. She took a sip, then set the glass down, not meeting his eyes. Don't be. You didn't break it. Something about that line stayed in the air longer than it should have. He wanted to ask what had broken exactly, but she'd already walked past him toward the washing machine again. What about you? She asked, kneeling to pick up one of his tools. Someone waiting for you at home? He almost laughed, quietly, without humor. No one's waiting. That's a waste, she said softly, handing him the wrench. Her hand lingered a second too long on his. Her touch was warm, the kind that left a mark even when it was gone. He could feel it pulsing in his palm as he took the tool from her. I move a lot, he said. Hard to stay in one place long enough to make anything stick. She nodded like she understood, or maybe recognized the same restlessness in herself. You're still young. You have time. He looked at her, and for a moment, she seemed smaller than her confidence. Not weak, just human. The room had grown warmer. The air heavy with detergent and something more intimate, the faint heat between them. She leaned against the dryer, arms folded. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said without looking at him. He blinked. Like what? Like you see more than you should. He didn't answer. There wasn't a safe answer anyway. Instead, he reached for the towel she'd dropped earlier, brushing it off before handing it back. His fingers grazed hers again, and this time, neither pulled away. For a second, everything slowed, the hum of the machine, the light through the window, the space between their breaths. Then she smiled faintly, almost as if catching herself in something dangerous. You really should go, she whispered, though her voice didn't sound convinced. He didn't move. Neither did she. Their hands were still touching, just barely, but enough to make the air around them hum. He came by the next afternoon to check the connection, though he knew it didn't really need checking. She opened the door before he knocked twice. You again, she said softly, her smile small but unguarded this time. You said to make sure you were satisfied, he replied, instantly regretting how it sounded. Her eyebrow lifted, amused but cautious. Is that what you tell all your clients? Only the ones who make me nervous. That made her laugh, quiet, sudden, and real. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm very good at that. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and rain. A window was open, and the curtains breathed in and out like something alive. She moved around the kitchen, setting down mugs, too aware of his eyes following her. You don't have to hover, she said. I'm not, he murmured, leaning against the counter. I just don't want to miss anything. Her hand hesitated mid-air, then she looked up at him. You're too young to talk like that. He smiled. You keep saying that like it changes anything. That made her stop. The words hung between them, a quiet dare neither was ready to claim. A phone vibrated on the table, breaking the stillness. Her screen lit up. Lena, coffee at 3? She pressed the button quickly, silencing it. A friend, she said, as if she needed to explain. He nodded. You should go. I don't want to. Her honesty startled both of them. She tried to brush it off by taking another sip of coffee, but her hand shook slightly. He took the mug from her, steadying it before it spilled. Their fingers touched again, too long, too familiar now. You shouldn't, she began, but he was already closer. I know, he said, voice low. For a heartbeat, they were motionless. Her breath touched his jaw, his hand hovered near her waist but didn't dare to rest there. The tension thickened, a fragile, trembling thing that could shatter with one movement. Then the front door rattled, a key turning in the lock. Her eyes went wide. Lena, she whispered. He stepped back instantly, the sound of the lock turning like thunder in the small apartment. She hurried to the hallway, whispering urgently, Go, through the laundry room. He moved fast, heart pounding, every nerve alive. From the doorway, he heard the friend's voice, warm, unaware. You left your door open again. Thought I'd surprise you. The older woman laughed, too brightly. You did. He waited behind the laundry door, listening to them talk about errands and recipes, pretending everything was normal. But then her tone shifted softer when she said, I was just finishing something. He didn't know if she meant the machine or him. When Lena finally left, the apartment fell silent again. She turned, leaning on the doorframe. Her cheeks were flushed, her voice low. You shouldn't have come back, she said. He stepped closer, not trusting himself to speak. She didn't move away this time. Their breaths mingled, too near, too quiet, too inevitable. But when she finally looked at him, it wasn't an invitation. It was surrender, the kind that says I can't stop this, even if I should. Rain pressed against the windows that evening, soft and relentless. He hadn't planned to come back, not after nearly being caught, but the thought of her alone, with that unfinished sentence between them, made staying away impossible. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised. Just tired, the kind of tired that came from thinking too much. I told myself not to answer, she said. He swallowed. I told myself not to come. The corner of her mouth lifted, barely. We're both terrible at pretending. Inside, the light was low. The faint hum of the washing machine filled the silence again, grounding them in something ordinary while everything else felt anything but. She moved to the counter, pouring wine into two mismatched glasses. You shouldn't drink if you're driving, she said, almost absently. I'm not, he said, stepping closer. Her hand stilled mid-air. Then you plan to stay? He didn't answer, not with words. The distance between them closed like a held breath. When she turned toward him, the faint light caught the curve of her throat, the way her pulse flickered there fast, nervous. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and she didn't stop him. Her voice was a whisper. You don't know what you're doing. I do. She shook her head, but her hand found his chest, fingers splayed, as if testing how real he was. You'll regret this. Maybe, he said, but not tonight. Something in her expression broke then, not resistance, not permission, just exhaustion from holding herself together too long. You remind me of him, she said suddenly. He froze. Your husband? No, her eyes lifted, soft and raw. The way he used to look at me before I stopped believing him. He didn't know what to say. The silence stretched until it became its own confession. I'm not him, he said quietly. I know. She took a step closer. That's why it's worse. The words hit harder than he expected. She looked at him then, really looked like she was memorizing him in case she had to forget. His hand brushed her arm, trailing down until his fingers found hers. Her breath hitched. He leaned in, slow, unsure, the way you move when the air itself feels too fragile. The scent of her rain, wine, and something human filled the small space between them. Tell me to stop, he whispered. She didn't. Her lips parted slightly, a tremor in the breath she took. The washing machine clicked off, a tiny sound that felt deafening. They both froze, inches apart, caught in that suspended second where wanting turns into choice. Then, from somewhere outside, a car door slammed sharp, breaking the spell. She stepped back first, eyes wide. He stayed still, heart pounding, the warmth of her still on his hands. She whispered, almost to herself, if we keep doing this, there won't be any going back. And for once, he didn't want to. The next morning, she called him. Her voice was lower than usual, like she'd been awake all night. Can you come by? She asked. He hesitated. Is something wrong with the machine again? There was a pause long enough for him to know that wasn't the reason. Just come, she said. When he arrived, the apartment felt different. The air wasn't calm anymore, it was restless, holding its breath. She stood by the window, arms folded, a letter crumpled in her hand. Someone left this under my door, she said, offering it to him. The note was short, written in neat, deliberate script. He's too young for you. People are talking. His stomach dropped. Who wrote it? She shook her head. Doesn't matter. What matters is, they're not wrong. He looked up sharply. You think that? I think, she said slowly, that I've been pretending no one would notice. But someone has. And now I can't stop wondering who else knows. He stepped closer. Does it change what's real between us? Her eyes flickered, full of something tangled: fear, want, shame. It makes it dangerous. Then why call me back? Her breath caught. Because I wanted to see if it still felt the same. He took another step forward, until the space between them barely existed. The tension was heavier now, not curiosity, but something sharper. You could have told me not to come, he said. I tried, she whispered. I almost did. He reached out slowly, carefully, and took the letter from her hand. Her fingers trembled when his touched hers, but she didn't pull away. I don't care what they think, he said. I only care what you do. Her voice broke on the next breath. That's the problem. I do care. I have to. You don't know what it's like being me, being looked at like this. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that he understood, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he moved closer, so close he could feel the heat of her body through the air. You think I don't notice, he said quietly. How you pull away right when it gets quiet. How your hands shake when I touch you. Her eyes lifted, raw and unguarded. And you think I don't notice how you keep coming back? Silence. Then a slow exhale. The kind that feels like surrender. He reached for her face, fingers brushing the line of her jaw. Her skin was warm, soft, trembling under his touch. She closed her eyes, leaning into it for just a second before stepping back. We can't keep doing this, she said. But I can't tell you to stop, either. He stared at her, heart hammering. Then tell me what you want. Her lips parted, the answer almost there, but she turned toward the door instead. I want you to go, she whispered. Before I say something I can't take back. He didn't move at first. The letter fluttered from his hand to the floor. And in the silence that followed, both of them knew he'd be back again. He told himself he wouldn't go. He lasted 2 days. When she opened the door this time, she didn't speak, just looked at him, as if expecting him all along. The air between them was heavier than before, like the quiet before a storm that already knows where it will fall. I thought you were done coming here, she said. I thought you were done opening the door, he replied. Her mouth curved, tired but real. We're terrible at ending things, aren't we? Maybe we never started them right. He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. The sound of the latch echoed too loud in the small apartment. She stood in the center of the room, hands clasped together, not to hold anything, just to stop herself from shaking. He could see it in the way her breath hitched, the way her eyes couldn't quite meet his. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. He moved closer anyway. Say it like you mean it. She tried once, twice, but the words didn't come. Instead, her hand brushed his arm, accidental or not, he couldn't tell. The touch burned through him, quick and certain. People talk, she said softly. They always do. But if we do this, he interrupted, voice low. Then it's real. Her gaze lifted, startled. You think that's what I want? Real? I think, he said, stepping even closer, you're tired of pretending you don't. The space between them disappeared. He could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something floral and fading, mixed with the warmth of her skin. His fingers hovered near her face, not touching it, just feeling the heat radiate between them. Her eyes flickered to his mouth, then back to his eyes. You'll regret this, she whispered, but her voice was trembling now, betraying her. Maybe, he murmured, but I need to know. She closed the gap. It wasn't a kiss, not fully. Just the smallest tilt forward, her forehead resting against his, her breath shallow, uneven. The sound of rain against the windows filled the silence, steady and forgiving. He whispered, say it. She breathed out, barely audible. I don't want to be alone anymore. That was all it took. Her hands found his shirt, his fingers brushed her jaw. They moved slowly, like people afraid of breaking something fragile. Every inch was hesitation and want, apology and need, the mess of two people who'd run out of reasons not to. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were wet but steady. "This isn't about fixing something broken," she said softly. "It's about what I keep trying not to feel." He nodded, voice rough. "And now you've stopped trying." She exhaled, half relief, half ache. "Now I've stopped pretending." Outside, the storm eased. Inside, the world held still. They stood there, faces close, hearts unguarded, no promises, no excuses, just the quiet, undeniable truth between them. They finally understood each other, and there was no going back. Morning came softly, the kind of gray light that doesn't rush you awake but waits patiently by the window. She was sitting at the kitchen table when he came out from the hallway barefoot, hair still damp from the rain. The night hadn't been wild or reckless, it had been quiet, filled with words they hadn't known how to say until now. For once, she didn't try to look composed. Her hair was loose, her sleeves rolled up, the traces of sleep still around her eyes. "You didn't leave," she said, not accusingly, just surprised. He poured himself some coffee, smiling a little. "Did you expect me to?" "I wasn't sure." He took the chair beside her, close enough that their knees brushed. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was comfortable. The kind that didn't need filling. She looked at him then, really looked the way you do when you're realizing something too late and too soon at the same time. "You'll get tired of this," she said softly. "Of me. Of what people say." He shook his head. "You don't get to decide that." Her lips curved, just barely. "You sound too sure." "I'm not," he admitted. "But I'm here. That has to mean something." She reached out, fingers tracing the rim of her mug before sliding toward his hand. The gesture was small, unsure, but when their fingers met, she didn't pull away. Her skin was warm. "Familiar now." He squeezed her hand gently. "You know, when I first came here, I thought I was fixing a washing machine." She laughed low, almost shy. "And?" He shrugged. "Turns out it was me who needed fixing." That made her pause. Then, after a breath, "Maybe both of us did." The day moved around them quietly, the faint hum of the city outside, a clock ticking somewhere unseen. She leaned back in her chair, head tilting toward him. "People will still talk," she said, half a warning, half an invitation. "Let them," he replied. "They don't know what this feels like." Her eyes softened. "What does it feel like?" He thought for a moment. "Like standing somewhere you were never supposed to, but finally realizing it's exactly where you belong." She looked away, blinking hard. He reached out, brushed her hair from her face again, slower this time. She leaned into his touch without hesitation. Then, without ceremony, she rested her head on his shoulder. No grand promises. No declarations. Just the quiet truth of two people who'd stopped fighting what they already knew. Outside, the light grew warmer. The rain had passed. The washing machine in the corner gave one last soft click, as if agreeing that everything broken had finally found its rhythm again. He exhaled, his cheek against her hair. She whispered, almost smiling, "You can stay." "I was hoping you'd say that." "Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?"